Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video. We're going to be talking about the law of sines today. And the law of sines is going to be fundamentally different from every other right triangle trig thing we've talked about because there is no right triangle. With the law of sines, there's just an arbitrary triangle. Now, if you remember, when we talk about triangles, and specifically really any shape, but when we talk about geometry, when we label things, we label the vertices with capital letters, and we label the sides with lowercase letters. So just to highlight that, this is corner A, and opposite that is lowercase side A. And then we have corner B, this is angle B, and opposite it we have lowercase side B. And then we have angle C, and opposite that we have a lowercase side C. The law of sines is pretty simple. What it says is that the side A is proportional to the sine of angle A, and that is equal to side B over the ratio of the sine of angle B, which is also equal to the ratio of C over the sine of C. Now, clearly you've never seen an equation with two equal signs before. And that's because when we're solving these, either we're going to use A over the sine of angle A equals B over the sine of angle B, or we might use A over the sine of A equals B over the sine of B. Let's go back for a second. Equals C over the sine of C, right? We're just going to use two of these equations. We're not going to use all three at the same time. But basically what happens is we get a ratio, we get a proportion, we've got three that we know, one piece that we don't know, and we just algebraically solve for the missing piece. So let's look at some examples and see what we're working with. Okay, so in triangle ABC, we gotta draw the picture. Remember, it doesn't have to be a right triangle here. Big difference from SOHCAHTOA, which needs to be on a right triangle. So side A is 6, that is opposite angle A. Side B is 9, that's opposite angle B. And side C, they didn't give us. Okay, so because they only gave us AB and then they talked about the sine of A, I'm not going to mark this piece here as 2/3 because they didn't say angle A is 2/3. They said the sine of A is 2/3. So for my SOHCAHTOA here, I should say we're not using SOHCAHTOA, for my law of sines here, I want A over the sine of A is equal to B over the sine of B. And so I'm going to plug in A as 6, and the sine of A is 2/3, meaning I'm just plugging in a 2/3 on the bottom. B is 9, and they're asking me for the sine of B. So all I've got to do here is cross multiply and solve, meaning I'll get 6 times the sine of B is equal to 2/3 times 9. And I will divide by 6, and I will get sine of B is equal to, well, 2/3 times 9 times 6. Let's pull out the handy dandy calculator and let's see what we can do with that. So alpha y equals 2 over 3. I'm going to multiply that by 9, and then we're going to divide by 6. So we get 1. Now, a lot of us here are very used to second sine, 1, and so on. No, they asked us what the sine of B is. So the sine of B is just 1. That is our answer. Okay, so again, when you're plugging into the program online, if you're finalizing an answer, it's just 1. You don't have to do any of this arc sine business. Okay, so here we're dealing with a triangle. Again, draw the picture. A, B, and C. Opposite the B is a 12 because that's side B. Opposite the C is a 8 because that's side C. And then again, we can't mark this angle here because we don't know what the angle is. They told us what sine of B was. But what I can see here is that I'm using a combination of B's and C's, meaning that the law of sines, when I use it, will be B over the sine of angle B equals c over the sine of angle c. And so now I'm just going to plug in 12 over 1/2. Okay, why 1/2? Well, 12 over 1/2 is simply, okay, the sine of b being 1/2. Again, they didn't tell me what b was. If they told me what b was, I'd be doing the sine of, let's say, 40 degrees or the sine of 15 degrees. C is 8, and I don't know what the sine of c is. I'm going to cross multiply here. So as I go to cross multiply, I'm going to get 12 times the sine of c equals 1/2 times 8. So 12 times the sine of c is equal to 4. I'm going to divide by 12, and I'm going to get the sine of c is 1/3. Okay, so since I got that sine of c is 1/3, we can go up to question number 3. And what you're going to find here is the same process just repeats every single time. So we draw our picture, and these triangles are getting worse and worse. Okay, so we've got triangle ABC. Sine of A is 0.25, but again, I'm not going to be able to use that, but I should circle it just to make use of it. A is 5 and B is 10, and they want me to find the sine of B. Okay, so I'm going to be using A over the sine of A equals B over the sine of B, and I'm going to plug in. So when I plug in, A happens to be 5, and the sine of A is 0.25. B happens to be 10, and I don't know what the sine of B is. So I'll cross multiply. 5 times the sine of B is equal to 0.25 times 10. Okay, so when I multiply that by 10, I just get 2.5, right? Just moves the decimal place over. So I get 5 sine of B is equal to 2.5. I divide by 5. And I get that the sine of B is 1/2. And again, remember when you plug in the answer, we just want the 1/2. We do not want the sine of B equals or anything like that. Okay, so we'll be watching for how many of you have watched the video to know that you don't want to put that in as part of your answer. Okay, so I do kind of want to use this as a check to see who has watch the videos and who maybe hasn't watched the videos. So be ready for that. So in triangle ABC, A equals 5, B equals 6, sine of B is 3/5. So the last one that I want to go through with you, we look at triangle ABC. So A is 5, lowercase b is 6, and the sine of B is 3/5. So we'll be using A over the sine of A equals B over the sine of B. So A happens to be lowercase 5. We don't know what the sine of A is. B happens to be 6, and the sine of B happens to be 3/5. Now what's very interesting here is that they gave us the sine of B as 3/5, we know that, but they asked for the number of degrees in acute angle A. They're actually asking us what does A equals. They're not asking us what does the sine of A has equaled like the other 3 questions. So we'll actually be using arc sine here. All right, we're going to cross multiply like we normally would. 5 times 3/5 equals 6 times sine of A. The 5's cancel. We get 3 equals 6 times the sine of A. We're going to divide by 6 on both sides. So we're going to get 1/2 is equal to the sine of A. Now remember, they did not ask us for the sine of A. They asked us for A here. They wanted the number of degrees of A. So we're actually going to be doing second sine 1/2. And that tells me that A is 30 degrees. But again, no degree symbol, just put in the 30. Do not put in A equals or anything like that. And that's for all answers. There's no need for units. There's no need for equal. Okay, we really are trying to test here. Are you watching the videos? Okay, because these videos are important. You need to use them just like class. That's it for today on the law of sines. Okay, next week we'll be using sine for something different. Have a great day, everyone, and I'll see you on the next one.